In Hong Kong, where I did a lot of movies, I played a bad guy for the first time. It was the same question I asked Richard Downer. My director told me to look at my face. Oh, he does know how to hurt people. At first, it was through lesser-known characters in his songs. Okay, even though Li Lianjie's name might sound strange, he is one of the most recognized faces in action movies. His screen name is Jet Li. As long as most movie fans can remember, Li has been in action movies. He has been in movies from the 1980s and 1990s to more current series like The Expendables, but fans went crazy in 2018 when a picture of the star that looked old went viral. The picture looked almost unrecognizable. The martial artist was born in 1963, so he was only 55 years old when the picture went viral. People all over the world were worried when the picture came out because he looked 20 or even 30 years older than he was. But do they have good reason to be worried? How did Jet Li get away? Come with us as we look into Jet Li's life and the events that happened to him. Jet Li was born in Beijing on April 26, 1963. Many people see him as the perfect example of speed, accuracy, and the beauty of martial arts. His journey from being a wushu champion in China to becoming a movie star around the world is nothing short of interesting. It's full of amazing highs and moments that make many people feel good. That's not all he can do. He can also punch, kick, and swing swords. Jet Li's story began when he was 8 years old. He started to learn wushu, a Chinese martial art like most boys his age did in China at the time. It was just something he did for fun. But this young boy Li was different in some way. He wasn't just learning how to do it, he was really good at it. It's impossible to deny his speed, strength, and agility. In fact, Li had already won his first national wushu title by the time he was 11. Even when he was in his teens, he kept competing and won several national titles. But as he always says in a humble way, the best thing about wushu for him wasn't the medals, it was the mental practice and getting to know himself better. The things he learned here set him up for future success as an action star. For Li, wushu was never a sport. It was a way for him to show who he was. Li stopped competing in wushu in his late teens and started acting instead. In China in 1982, his first movie, Shaolin Temple, was a big hit right away. People were amazed by how good he was at martial arts and how captivating he was on TV. In no time, he became famous all over Asia. In the 1980s and 1990s, he was the star of a string of hit movies. He played the famous folk hero Wang Fei in the 1991 movie Once Upon a Time in China. This was one of his most memorable roles. From then on, Li was definitely known as the martial arts superstar. Li can do complicated dance moves without wires or special effects because he has perfect timing and moves smoothly. He was more than just a martial artist. People could tell he was a real martial artist because he had the right gear. Hollywood had come calling by the late 1990s. Li played Hua Xingku, the bad guy, in Lethal Weapon 4. It was his first show in the United States in 1998. Following a few lines spoken in his usual soft voice, he became scary, quick, and easily cool. People in American movies had never seen anyone quite like him. This led to him getting the lead part in Romeo Must Die, a modern-day version of Romeo and Juliet that came out in 2000. He starred with the late singer Aaliyah to show off his talent. Jet Li's Hollywood career took off with this movie. He would go on to star in action-packed hits like Kiss of the Dragon, The One, and Cradle to the Grave. In a way, it showed how Hollywood is becoming more and more obsessed with action movies. Li, on the other hand, rarely plays bad guys in her movies, even though she is an action star. They believe that they fight because it is the right thing to do. Jet Li mixes Eastern thought with the rough and tumble style of a Western action movie very well. He's not just there to beat up the bad guys, his character is usually about bigger things like getting even, finding peace within, and payback. Li plays a figure on a quest that is about more than just physical conflict in movies like Hero, which came out in 2002 and was directed by Zhang Yimou. The movie itself was beautiful to look at, combining stunning martial arts moves with deep intellectual thought. It did well with critics and customers alike, and Li became known to even more people around the world. When Jet Li worked with Jackie Chan on the 2008 movie The Forbidden Kingdom, it was another high point in his career. It had been a long time coming for these two martial arts stars to be in a movie together, and it paid off. It was a fun nod to the old kung fu movies, and when these two fought, it became a classic right away. Li would soon take a break from playing in martial arts movies because of this job. What do you think the reason is? Look at the video again to learn more. Break from work. Jet Li has had to deal with a health problem called hyperthyroidism over the years. This has been making it very hard for him to do his job. And this martial arts star, who used to look unbeatable, needs to slow down. Not as many people know about this part of his life, but it is just as amazing as his rise to fame. Jet Li's health issues began to show up in the early 2010s. Fans had noticed that he wasn't in as many movies as he used to be, and reports about his health began to spread. He would soon say that he fought hyperthyroidism. Too much thyroxine is made by the thyroid gland, which causes this problem. This can lead to an imbalance that can manifest as weight loss, tiredness, muscle weakness, and uneven heartbeats, all of which are not things an action star wants to deal with. Li first tried taking medicine to control the condition, but hyperthyroidism is hard to control. There are days when you feel great and days when you can barely get out of bed. Dare to fly across the room with martial arts moves that make you fly. It was getting harder for Li to make his job work because he couldn't tell what would happen next. He knew it was time to quit acting. While Jet Li had hyperthyroidism, the news didn't get out right away. For years, people made guesses about his health. When Li finally talked about his illness on TV in 2013, it had been a while. He said that his doctors told him to rest his body. For a man who had spent his whole life improving his body, learning martial arts, and being in charge, hearing that his health was getting worse must have been a huge shock. But as he always does, Jet Li did not give up. What he did instead was deal with his health problems in the same way that his philosophy and resolve had helped him do well in martial arts. Because Li's health was bad, he fell behind on some of the more difficult jobs he had taken on earlier in his career. He had to slow down, which might have kept some players from working, but Jet Li just changed gears. First, he tried parts that were more about character than physicality. This showed a different side of his acting skills. In 2010, Ocean Heaven was one of the first movies to show this change. Wang Xingcheng is played by Jet Li. He is a single father who is taking care of his autistic kid. This is a heartbreaking change from the action parts Li is known for, showing a softer, more vulnerable side. There aren't any fight scenes or bombs, just a dad trying to connect with his kid and look out for him. Li got great reviews from critics who liked how he could make people feel strong feelings, that he was more than just a martial arts star and an actress in every sense of the word. This movie, Ocean Heaven, marked a big change in Li's career. He went from being a martial arts hero to a serious dramatic character. This was a surprise to many people who had only known him as an action hero, because he could keep people glued to their seats without even punching anyone. Even though Jet Li cut back on the number of martial arts heavy parts he played, he still stayed true to his action genre. This put Li in a group of movies called The Expendables, which also starred Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Jason Statham. He wasn't the center of attention like he used to be, but he still gave the whole group his usual intensity and presence. He was in an action movie, but it wasn't as hard on his body as some of his other roles. Because he could stay in touch with his fans while slowly moving on to parts that were easier on his body. Li played Yin Yang again in The Expendables 2 2012 and The Expendables 3 2014, showing that even as the secondary star, his screen presence could never be ignored. After seeing these movies, Li might not be able to fly through the air or defeat whole forces by himself, but was still a part of this exciting world of action movies. Do you want to know more about Li's health issues? Watch out for now. Viral concern: Li cut back a lot on his film work as his health problems got worse. It wasn't possible for him to do the big, dangerous stunts that made him famous. The screens were missing him, and rumors about his health began to get louder. Then there was a shot going around that caused a lot of controversy. A picture of him at a Tibetan temple in 2008 that went viral shows him looking weak and old, with short gray hair and glasses. Li smiles at the camera in the picture, but she looks weak. He is posing with a man who supports the actor's crossed arms in front of his body with one hand. Li really did look a lot older than he was. A lot of people couldn't believe it. The man they had seen in action in Romeo Must Die and Hero throwing bad guys around was so weak he could hardly stand. Fans thought this was because Li had talked about having an overactive thyroid problem earlier in 2013. A person with an overactive thyroid can have big changes in their weight and heart rate at rest, but the disease is easy to treat. Li has had to change how he lives because of the disease, but it is said that it has never put his life in danger. The man in charge of him told the press that he has had hyperthyroidism for almost 10 years. It's not dangerous to his life, and he's taking care of it. He's fine and good. Other shocking facts about him came to light when he was at the top of his game. There is a lot more wrong with Li's body than just a swollen thyroid. He's been hiding the damage his whole life to make us laugh. Li has said that he has problems with his knees and back because of all the injuries he has had. It's making it hard for him to stand up straight for long periods of time. He had a background in martial arts that goes back decades. At age 18, he tore his knee and had surgery to fix it. By age 23, he had caused a major back injury. Li is said to have said that doctors told him in 2013 that he would need a wheelchair if he kept making martial arts movies. That helps explain another reason why he hasn't been making as many songs in this genre since then. It's not his fault. There will always be movies Li has made, but he only gets one chance to make a new one. No longer need to worry. First, as the picture of Jet Li going viral kept getting more attention, his public relations team jumped on it right away by having his boss reassure fans that his client was fine. Li's manager told fans that Li appreciated their concern, but he also made it clear that the rumors that Li's health was getting worse were greatly exaggerated and based on a single picture that wasn't very well put together. There is some truth to the idea that the picture was incorrect. People have come up with these ideas based on just one picture. Li's boss says, if you took a picture of me at the wrong angle and time of day, I could also look weak. The picture quickly spread around the world's news sites. People on social media quickly pointed out that a lot of Li's look could be due to lighting, posture, and other outside factors, not a sign that his health is getting worse. Li had to make things clear. Li responded to the worries about his health on social media with the kindness and modesty that he always shows. Even though my health is bad, I'm not going to die, he told his friends in a public statement. I am still getting used to the problems my body gives me. I'm just a normal guy, he said. I'm not a hero. Yes, I'm not Superman. Fans from all over the world loved how honest he was about his physical limits. There he was, a man who had always seemed bigger than life, showing his weakness and showing us all that even the greatest people have problems they can't control. In recent years, Jet Li has been in fewer movies, but he hasn't been seen in no movies at all. He kept acting in movies and TV shows, but this time he played more serious and dramatic parts. In the live-action Disney remake of Mulan, which came out in 2018, he came back for a short time to play the prince. The part was very different from the action-packed ones he used to play, but it had a lot of value on its own. All of these things brought Li back into the world spotlight. It had more weight when I played a ruler in a big Disney movie. Again, a part that didn't require him to do physically demanding action scenes finally brought out the best in his acting without making his body hurt. Do you believe Li can still keep people glued to their screens? You can talk about what you think in the comments. In the meantime, keep watching for more information about Li, prizes and awards. Jet Li's amazing skills and success in martial arts and movies have been noticed by many. During his work, he won many awards and honors, which shows how influential he was on both the Eastern and Western film industries. Hong Kong itself recognized the actor's work by nominating him for several prestigious Hong Kong Film Awards. People have said that he did a great job in the movie Once Upon a Time in China, and the series has been praised as one of the best action series of its time. Even though he didn't always win, these nominations show that he was a great actor and left a lasting impact in martial arts movies. In the same way, Jet Li's first movie in Hollywood was a huge hit. Romeo Must Die put him in the running for Best Fight at the 2001 MTV Movie Awards. It's easy to see why he became a big star in the West right away. His fight moves were crazy. There are also records of Jet Li's dedication to the martial arts in movies and in the wushu sport. He won 3 wushu titles in China before he became an actor, and he left with a lot of gold medals. Because he was so good at the sport and people from all over the world liked it, he became a spokesman for wushu around the world. Life in general, love, marriage, death, and hard choices about citizenship are just a few of the dramatic events in Li's personal life. Jet Li's love life has been up and down. Huang Choyan, another martial artist, was his wife. Huang Choyan and he had trained together in wushu together in the past. Like Li, Choyan used to be the Chinese national wushu winner, so it looked like they were meant to be together. They had 2 girls named Sai and Taimi. The marriage wasn't meant to last, even though they had a great past together. Li was honest when he said that he married Choyan because he was thankful for her. For the time being, he was still young and trying to figure out what he wanted out of life. In 1990, they got a divorce and were no longer married, but Li and Chuyan got along well at the event. That's when Li knew his heart wasn't really in that relationship. He knew he had to find love that would really drive him. Soon after, that love came from Nina Lianjie, an actor from Hong Kong. Nina was a very good actor in the late 1980s and early 1990s. She was known for how beautiful and graceful she was on screen. Jet Li fell in love right away. He even said that he didn't know what love was until he met Nina. Li said in an interview that he would happily give up all of his fame, money, and even his job if it meant he could stay with Nina. When Jet and Nina got married in 1999, it was different from his first marriage because they loved and respected each other. They have 2 girls named Jane and Jada, who don't talk about their private lives. Li has always said that Nina was there for him and helped him through some of the hardest times in his work. Nina stopped acting to spend more time with her family. The pair is still one of the most famous couples because of their quiet but undeniable love. Let's move on from Jet Li's love life to a time in his life when things were less stable. Check back to find out. In 2004, Jet Li and his family were on holiday in the Maldives. That was one of the scariest times in his life. During this trip, the terrible Indian Ocean tsunami hit, killing hundreds of thousands of people in Southeast Asia. That Jet Li had died in the accident was even talked about for a while. It was said that the strong waves had swept him away. These reports turned out to be false, but that didn't mean Li hadn't come very close. He was out there in the middle of it when the wave hit. As the water rose, he held his little girl in his arms. In talks after the event, Li talked about how scared and panicked he was trying to protect his family from the destruction. Even though they were all okay, the event changed him. There was also a threat to his life, which made him realize how fragile life really was. Let's look at another private part of Jet Li's life. Jet Li has also been involved in a contentious case involving changing his citizenship. A lot of newspapers wrote about Jet Li in April 2009 when he gave up his US citizenship, which he had obtained in 1997. A lot of guesses have been made since then about his future, especially about what country he is from. There were rumors going around like wildfire that he had become a Singaporean citizen, but at first the Singaporean government didn't say anything and didn't confirm anything. In July of that same year, though, the executive head of the One Foundation said that Li had become a Singaporean citizen. Li moved to Singapore later on. It was his main goal to get his two younger girls into the best schools that made him move to Singapore. Singapore was a natural choice for a father who cared about his family's interests because it has a strong and competitive schooling system. On more than one level, 2009 was a very busy year for Li. Besides becoming a citizen, he went beyond acting and charity work by starting his own exercise program called Wuji. Wuji is different from other workouts because it blends martial arts, yoga, and Pilates into one healthy and balanced way to stay fit. Li's ideas are reflected in it, which combines strength, flexibility, and mental focus. It wasn't just about getting fit. In Li's years of martial arts training, he learned how to deeply connect his body and mind. It's not over yet. A teamwork was going to happen. At the same time as Wuji's release, Adidas, a well-known global sportswear company, worked with Jet Li to create a special Wuji collection of clothes. The initials JL were used to create the collection, which was meant to look good and be useful so that people could move their bodies during fitness and martial arts workouts. All of this proved that Li was still a big deal in martial arts and the fitness and health world in general. Giving back. Jet Li may be remembered for his defying martial arts moves, lightning-fast reflexes, and memorable movie parts. But when the camera is off, he's just a man with a huge heart. Li has spent a lot of his life helping other people, not just fighting with his sword and hitting people. His journey into philanthropy shows how deeply he believes in kindness, service, and the need to give back to society. Jet Li's desire to help others didn't form when he was already a well-known character. It was always in him to care about other people. But the storm that almost killed him in 2004 changed many things about his life. In later talks, he talked about how the time after made him think a lot about that thin, shaky thread of life. It wasn't enough for him to live his life for himself. He wanted to give it to people who could help change the world. The One Foundation, which Jet Li started, may be the most important and far-reaching of his charitable work. The group was started in 2007 and works to help with disaster relief, poverty relief, and the schooling of Chinese children. The One Foundation's idea is to make it easy for regular people to help others, because they believe that even a small donation can make a big difference when added to other people's gifts. One person, $1, which means that each person makes a difference. One Foundation quickly rose to prominence in China's charity scene, especially when it comes to disaster aid. Tens of thousands of people died in the 2008 Sichuan earthquake, which also left several millions of people without homes. One Foundation was right there to help by sending food and resources to the people who were affected. Li went out into the affected areas to help survivors by giving them money and mental support. A lot of money was made to help people who were hurt in the earthquake. The One Foundation has also started a number of other projects to raise knowledge about mental health and provide education for children who don't have much. This group is known for being open and effective, and Li has done a lot to spread the idea that anyone, not just rich people, can make giving back a part of their daily lives. Jet Li does more good deeds than just his charity. He became a goodwill ambassador for the International Red Cross after the tsunami and has since helped with crisis relief around the world. As a devout Buddhist, he is very spiritual, and this has influenced a lot of his work, especially that which improves mental and emotional health. Li talks about this question of balance a lot in his book and in real life. Because he thinks that physical, mental, and emotional health are all connected, he has done a lot to raise understanding about mental health, which is still a new and touchy subject in many parts of Asia. Through one organization, he has pushed for mental health programs that help get people the help they need and break down barriers to care. Jet Li has worked with the Red Cross and the World Economic Forum to promote humanitarian problems around the world. His work has even led to calls for a more cooperative approach to disaster aid and building peace around the world. Jet Li is still very humble about everything he has done. He doesn't like being known for his charitable work very much. Instead, his work says a lot about who he is. He often plays down his part in one foundation in interviews, saying that it takes a team effort and that the real stars are those who give their time, money, and energy to make change happen. Li's giving to others is very personal. He has talked about how his early life as a child in Beijing with a low-income family taught him about struggle. Li is dedicated to giving back in any way he can because he used to need help from others. He felt even more responsible than before to make his life about more than fame and money after this near-death experience. While Jet Li has been stepping away from the hard work of making movies, he has been putting more effort into his charitable work. He gave back to the world. He has to deal with his own health problems, like hyperthyroidism and the damage that years of martial arts have done to his body. He has never given up on his promise to help others, and because of this, his charitable work still has a big impact in China and around the world. The most encouraging thing about Jet Li's charity work is that it comes from a real desire to help others. He does more than just visit and sign checks. He really cares about the causes he backs. Jet Li takes on all of his causes with the same level of dedication and zeal that made him famous in martial arts in the first place. This includes helping people after disasters, speaking out for mental health, and promoting peace. But Jet Li's impact goes beyond the great movies he made. People all over the world know him from some of the most famous martial arts movies, but his charitable work has made him a source of hope for many more. His life story shows that true greatness isn't measured by fame or money, but by how a person changes other people's lives. He went from being a young wushu winner to becoming one of the most famous movie stars in the world and a generous donor. Which thing about the great hero Jet Li do you like most about him? Leave a note to let people know what you think. This video can be liked and shared. Also, don't forget to click the button that says subscribe. Please click on the movie that is shown on your screen before you leave.